There is a silent truth that nobody told us when we were growing up, and I've come to figure out this the right way. It took me time to understand this in a very proper manner. We were taught that the successful people are the ones who work the hardest, the ones who grind, the ones who sacrifice, the ones who suffer are the ones who are going to make it. But here's a plot twist. I've come to realize that the most successful people, the ones who create the impact, the ones who bring the most driven results, the innovators, the creators, are not the ones who work the hardest. They are the ones who understand the logic of working less but doing better. And that is why I need you to think about this for a second. How many times have you been in a situation where you realize that your efforts are not equals to your result? And so often we ask ourselves, what can we do more? How can I put much effort? That is not the right question. You should ask yourself, how can I achieve more without burning out myself? How can I achieve more without getting exhausted, without letting my team down? Just doing a little, but achieving more. So many people have been there, and I've come to realize that so often we get exhausted, not because we are doing more, not because we are doing the right things, simply because we are walking on the wrong path. We are just being busy but not being productive. We are trying to be active but we are not achieving more. I've seen so many people in that situation. You are not alone. I've been there. But one thing I've come to realize is that intensity is not productivity. What matters the most is clarity. If you lack information, if you lack that clarity, it will be hard for you to leave from that hole where you're stuck in, because you think that you need to be the hardest person, you need to work hard. When you look at people who are really, really working hard in today's world, they are not really making it. But the ones who understand working less but doing it better, they are making it massively. And in today's episode is what I want us to tackle. We are going to look deep into productivity. How can I become very much productive by doing less and achieving more? Let's tackle that. Now let's start from here real quick. I need you to understand the difference between effort and effectiveness. Now, effort is the energy spent, while effectiveness is a strategy of doing less but achieving more. And real achievers really do understand this. It is their superpower. Now, you need to ask yourself, where do I channel my energy? What is it that I can do to get the most result out of it? Most people just spend their energy everywhere. They think that everyone deserves their energy. Now, if you look at my LinkedIn, there is a post that I made trying to make people understand that not everyone deserves your energy. Channel your energy where you're going to get the most result. And I was abacked by the response, by how few people understand the impact of not giving your energy. That post took me viral. It brought me some retentions that I've never gotten before. That is the impact. Not everyone deserves your energy. You need to be very strategic about where you position yourself and how you give your energy out there. And there is also this myth on the hustle culture. Social media glorifies hustle. Don't rest, don't sleep. You need to continue doing it until you make it out. But the truth is, if you don't rest, you don't last. If you don't reflect, you don't grow. If you are not focused, there is no progress. That is the myth that everyone is trying to publish out there. You keep on do this. But the reality is, it is not about being fast. It's being focused. That is the real accelerator. And you need to understand the power of doing less. When you understand what is important to you, you shift every other thing aside. You understand the power of not trying to do every other thing. That is where your focus comes in. And that is where you get the most retention. You have to rest. You need to sleep. Imagine if this your body is not responding. There is no other thing that matters to you. There was this very important moment in my life where I was lying there at the hospital, and at that point I realized that there was nothing important to me as my health. My family was there, my friends were there with me, my work was on standby. At that point, the only thing that matters to you is your health. And you cannot get good health if you don't rest, if you don't sleep, if you don't exercise. You need to know what really balances, that there is no life balance. That's the whole thing. That's what we get on social media. There is no life balance, you have to keep on doing this. But that is not true. While I was lying there in the hospital, I realized that I need to prioritize my health. Without your health, even your girlfriend, the most relationship that you prioritize, your mother, your dad, they cannot save you at that moment. Everything shuts down. The content that you have always been creating, the no life balance that social media tells you that you have to do more, you don't need to rest, it doesn't matter anymore. You need to understand this effort. Do less, achieve more. Prioritize your health. That is the power of productivity. That is what I mean by doing less but achieving more. And sometimes we feel like no matter how hard I work, no matter what I do, I'm still not moving forward. I feel behind. I'm feeling discouraged. I'm feeling like maybe this was not meant for me. Sometimes you are not the problem. It is simply the direction that you are taking. It's not about having so much force. It's not about putting so much effort. You need to understand that 80% of what you achieve comes from 20% of your action. What I'm trying to say is you can achieve more by simply putting 20% of your effort to achieve 80%. Get this myth out of your brain that you need to work so hard. You need to be the hardest person working in the room. You need to work tirelessly. You need to grind and suffer before you make it. Gone are the days where we used to do that. We're in the digital age where anybody can succeed. Anybody can do some random things and then succeed. Look at the entertainment industry. The success in the entertainment industry is overwhelming. Those people are not putting in some effort. They are not doing some work. Look at the content creation industry. They are making massive money. But when you look at those who are really putting in the work, the constructor, I don't know how it is in other countries, but when you look at it in our home countries, you realize that they are doing so much physical work. The energy is being put in, but their output is very limited. You need to position yourself and be in that place where 80% of your result comes as a result of 20% of action. That is what I'm saying in essence. If there is one thing I need you to take from this conversation is this. You don't need to exhaust yourself to prove your worth. You don't need to break yourself to build a future. And if anything I've shared with you today resonated, if it sparked a thought, a question, or even just a feeling, maybe it's time for you to start building your future. And I will need you to do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button. That will show that you support what we do here, you value everything that we build here. And my promise to you alongside with my team is very simple. To consistently bring you real, honest, and valuable content that helps you figure out leadership, project management, one conversation at a time. Thank you for being here.